So really quick, just to get started, Corey and I met at the World of Concrete in Vegas. We immediately saw, I mean, at least for me, I'm going to speak for myself. I just saw the hottest dude and immediately migrated towards him. And I was like, that's who I'm going to hang out with. And then ever since that, we've been in love. So
That's hilarious.
while we were out there, you basically got me onto Firm Crete and I fell in love with it. Please, please, please tell me everything you know about this product because I am your new biggest fan.
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting more and more stoked on it the longer that I work with it. It's kind of like those scratch off drawings where it starts off black and there's like a pretty picture and you scratch it and you just discover the picture as you scratch it off. So exposed aggregate finishes in California are super common. In fact, a lot of the top decorative guys out there say they haven't stamped concrete in 10 or 20 years. And, the central time zone, it takes a little longer for things to make it out here. But we're at my installation company at Element 7, like we're excited about it. And the architect community in Austin, Texas is getting pretty stoked that they have an option to do this. There was decades where we were stamping other people's concrete because I think that concrete's kind of like wood. You have a framer and you have a trim carpenter, and those are two different guys. And so, having a high attention to detail and liking to take my time with things, my team and I, like, we've been asked a lot of times to come in and stamp other people's concrete. They're doing the dirt work, they're setting forms, they're screeding, and then we'll come in and make it look like wood or stone or what have you. And for years, probably like 3, 4, 5 years, architects would hit us up with these pictures of these sand finishes and say like, hey, could you do this? And I would basically say no, because it's such a timing trick. The Firm Crete is a means that you can get that sand finish with a very low probability of screwing it up. You've only got an 1/8 inch of all sand and you get it. And so it's been really fun for us to discover these exposed sand finishes. And I'm stoked that you saw that also, like the sparkle and, being part of the little bubbles and little things that we were doing out there. It was fun working together for sure.
Oh yeah. I'll attach a photo of our work, but that was absolutely amazing. Just to talk about that a little bit, we're out there at the World of Concrete and Ray actually gave a talk about it and he went through it. And from my understanding, it was just a 2-step process. There's a 2-part. You mix them together, you throw the aggregate in, whatever you want, and then you basically stir it up. It's it has the texture of like a little bit looser than pancake mix type. And then the key was not to overwork it. Pour it, just put it down, leave it alone, and then throw a retardant on it. Go back the next day, put a buffer on there with a medium broom or medium brush, and the finish was absolutely amazing. It was world class. And we were just pouring right over just traditional 3,500 psi gray concrete, just nothing too crazy. But man, the final product, I'll make sure I attach a few photos of the end product. That was amazing. How did you guys even come up with this idea?
Well, it's 100% Ray Cano. Like, that dude is an absolute genius when it comes to sand blends and stacking different types of sand in a manner that results in a really hard coating. And you hit the nail on the head as far as like pancake batter, because it's just like pancakes. You can put blueberries in there, put chocolate chips, you can make them like cinnamony or whatever. The mix just from the factory has got beautiful sands in it, but you can add, I think in the projects out there, we did some blue integral color and some blue glass and we use like a black sand to create like the shading on the bubbles. And so it's a really versatile material. And for me, like meeting Ray Cano was like, I mean, it's going to sound like hyper, but it changed my life because that dude, he created what I thought was like the holy grail of resurfacing materials. Because frankly, I mean, I was kind of over cement-based overlay materials because, they're 5-year Band-Aids. And, I built a business in a tiny town in Texas where we're doing, 400 or 500 projects a year. And so like I hated doing overlays because I felt like, concrete's going to crack, the crack's going to come through the overlay is going to flake off over time. All concrete passes moisture vapor. And when moisture vapor passes through concrete, it brings like some salt to the surface. And that's not a big deal, plain gray concrete. But when you put an overlay on it, that salt builds up like right where the overlay sits on the concrete and eventually causes it to come off. And so most like landscape architects and architects know better. They don't even want to fool with overlays. And I love that community. And so I was out of that deal. And I'm a coatings guy. You're a concrete guy. You place concrete. You do amazing work out there. I've always been really passionate about grinding and polishing and making something out of what's already there. I don't know what that's about, but it's just how I'm wired. And finding a resurfacing material that finishes like concrete, but more importantly has like the aesthetic timelessness and durability of actual concrete, game changer. And so it's kind of like those old shaver commercials. I can't remember the brand, maybe Remington. There's like, I loved it so much I bought the company. That's kind of what I did. Like I put like big part of my life savings and a lot of time, being out there in Las Vegas, obviously Element 7's chugging along, doing great back here in Texas. But I'm really passionate about bringing this to the world because I think there's like acres and acres of whack looking concrete that can finally now look FEMA, can look switched on. So I'm just, super excited to share that with you.
It seemed like if it was structurally sound, it was a go with Firm Crete. That's really what it looked like. And Ray was saying it was 8,000 psi, and I understand that most people that are watching this have no clue what that means, but that's basically twice as strong, if not more, as any traditional car, maybe 3 times. But man, it was just amazing.
Yeah, it's weird though, because like that whole PSI thing gets thrown around a lot in our industry, and like you said, a lot of people are whatever. But like, I guess the one thing that anybody ought to care about is that this doesn't require like a plasticky sealer to glue it together, meaning that like the product just alone totally works. And so we're able to use these sealers that go into the concrete, and it's a one and done deal. You never have to reseal it. And we actually did so last year at the World of Concrete, I don't think you were out there. A lot of people were super stoked on what we were doing. We made it, and I can send you some photos of this and you can attach this to the video, but we coated a planet Earth with sparkly Firm Crete, and all the guys from up north and from Europe and from, Israel, they were like, hey, that's really cool, but how's it do in cold climate? And we both felt kind of dumb because I'm in Texas, raised in Southern California. And so we found a lab in St. Paul, Minnesota that could do some freeze thaw testing and some de-icing salt resistance testing. And what we found is that like coating concrete with this really hard sand and then using this impregnating sealer, we could actually make the concrete better. Like concrete was more resistant to freeze thaw and de-icing salts and all these things than it ever could be any other way. Because to get those penetrating sealers to really work, you got to like grind the concrete rough or like bush hammer it or shot blast it or do something to make it really freaking rough. And that would be ugly. Like if you just made concrete rough and then sprayed this stuff on there, nobody would pay you for it because it'd look hideous. And so to be able to make it rough and then coat it with something super pretty and then use a sealer that penetrates both of those things to make it resilient, I get all excited because I think like making really durable things is a great way to like serve the world for our kids. I'm probably getting on my soapbox a little bit too much there though.
I kind of see it as you can even use it as like a Band-Aid. Say you have a bad pour, somebody just jacks up your finish altogether. Something walks through it and you're just like, well, okay, it looks like, traditionally you're going to jackhammer that thing out and reset. Or we can give you a custom finish. Choose from which flavor you want.
Yeah, you're totally right. So like when I did the sample slabs for that test I was talking about, I intentionally made half of them with, and I don't want to get heavy in the jargon, but like in the concrete world, how much water to cement you have is a big deal. Like the drier you can make the concrete, the harder it is. But it's a pain to pour like really dry concrete, right? Because it doesn't move around when you're pulling it. And so in the real world, especially in Texas, like California, you guys have contractor laws and, there's not a lot of amateurs in the game. In Texas, bro, you can stick a sticker on your truck and go to work tomorrow doing almost anything. And so consequently, there's some questionable construction practices going down out here. And so like concrete truck shows up, dudes don't want to deal with that stiff concrete. So they'll put like 50 gallons of water extra in the mix and then just like pull it around, And so like I intentionally made half of the slabs with a terrible water, like super watered down concrete. And I remember prepping it and I took my angle grinder to it. I just like shot dust and cement like all over. And I'm like, this is going to suck so bad that like nobody's going to want to, it's totally going to fail. And what was crazy is that because, again, like the impregnating sealer and then that layer of good sand on the surface, that like almost no matter how bad the concrete is, it becomes really good when coated with this material. And there's nothing in the industry like that. because I mean, as a coatings contractor, it's brutal because you're on the hook for how crappy the substrate is. Like I have a friend who's a painting contractor, and he's like, man, if I paint a wall and the drywall cracks, nobody thinks there's a problem with the paint. But like if I resurface concrete and it cracks up, even if it's the fault of the guy 20 years ago that did the work, it's still my name on it, right? And so then like coming up with ways to repair concrete properly, create joints where, the slabs are narrow and short, small enough that they're not going to break, and then coating it with this, it's a game changer. So I'm all excited.
We didn't even go with the fact that it's vertical. You could thin it right up a wall.
Yeah, it was original.
Some of the projects that you guys done it that were vertical.
Yeah, so Ray Cano, like I said, the guy's a genius, and he invented this originally as a wall coating. Like he was doing walls for 6 or 8 or I don't know, a lot of years before it ever occurred to him to put it on the floor. His dad I think he started Cano Architecture in like the 1980s, fixing precast wall panels. And he's a genius. Like he can literally like look at a patch or look at like colored concrete and like just kind of cowboy the mix, like a little of this, a little of that, just throwing some stuff in there and it'll match perfectly. He's a genius. Ray grew up working for his dad and he came up with this mix to fix these precast panels. Cause you think of like a big building in Los Angeles and they have these panels that are made in a yard. Precast means that like they cast it someplace and then they just install the panel, right? It takes like 2 years to cast all the panels for that building. And they're not all going to match because like some days it's like dry and hot. Some days it's cold and wet. Some days the dude working is hungover. I don't know. Like they're all different. And so like Ray's dad would go in there and fix these panels and then Ray would fix panels. And then Ray was like, man, I need like a mix when I have to go from joint to joint. So he made it as a wall mix first. And then the floor mix was kind of secondary. But again, I can't tell you like how brilliant that stacking of sands is. It kind of reminds me of like German brewing laws, right? Like and people that are super into beer, they're always talking about like Belgian beer, German beers or whatever. And like they've got these laws saying that like you can only use like yeast and hops and water. And I'm not super into it. So I don't know, but it's limited, right? All it is like just doing the basics like really well. And that's what makes this stuff so strong is it's just like, it's not like some newfangled chemical that's going to have side effects that we don't know about. It's just like old school masonry, but just done like really well.
How long ago did Ray come up with this product? And what's the oldest product that anybody can go back to and look at? Like, okay, it's been tested, in time. Like, how long?
Yeah, his work in this was like early 2000s. The first floor that he did was 2009. He's got a lot of like really high profile. He started like really cooking with gas, so to speak, in like 2016, let's say. And so like before like I said, gambled my life savings, my reputation and all my time, I flew out like LAX. Ray's shop was in Ontario and there was probably 10 addresses that he gave me. And I don't mean to sound like an idiot, but like I'm from a small town in Texas and driving in LA traffic and like checking these spots out was kind of sketchy. And I remember like first one I went to was this driveway for this big fancy hotel, like in downtown LA, super sparkly, like hundreds of cars just like whizzing by me. No exaggeration. It's like 1,800 cars a day that go over this thing. And that was one that he had installed. Gosh, it would have been 7 years prior, with no maintenance, no resealing, none of that. And because like all of the sparkle is in the mix, right? Like it's sand in the mix. It looks as good or better that day as it did the day they installed it. And so I'm like, okay, this is what's up. Cause I mean, ground and polished concrete is the same deal. That's the core of my installation business is ground and polished interior floors. And, I get calls, like I just had a call earlier today, dude, we did a job for him like 12 years ago. Floor's holding up amazingly well and he wants more of that, right? And that's cool. But like for outdoors, I had nothing. Like if you got a driveway, which is way bigger than your, the interior part of your floor, I couldn't really do anything for you. And the fact that like he had come up with a material to set that right in a better way than anyone had ever come up with, I got all fired up.
Oh, yeah. Have you guys seen any limitations on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just installer skill. So concrete guys like do great. Like concrete guys install it, that's no problem. Like what you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about like not overworking it. And dudes that do like overlays and coatings don't know how to sit still and just wait for the right time to retrowel that material. And I'm as guilty as anyone. Like when I first started doing cast and place countertops, I would hire like the best finisher I could possibly get. And usually he spoke Spanish and I only spoke English. And so we'd have to like kind of struggle to communicate. And, but he was always telling me like, wait, like I always wanted to like trowel it some more. And he's like, wait. And so we're kind of trying to Corey proof the whole process because, you know, I want my team here in Texas to be successful with it. And so, you know, we figured out some ways to use chemicals to just get it smooth without having to like use the surface retarder so much, and then just expose the sand with like chemical etching. And that's been kind of neat to figure that out.
Yeah, I knew it was something incredible when Rick Smith walked over, and he taught me everything I know. Rick's been in the business and he's seen everything. He's worked on Michael Jackson's house. Like he's seen it all. And when he introduced me to you guys, he was very, very passionate about what this product could do. I've never seen him so giddy. It was actually pretty interesting to see.
Ego trip for us because like, you know, we send out a email newsletter every week, and, you know, you can see like who opens it and who clicks on the video and all that kind of stuff. And like, truly it's like all the top of the game dudes, you know, the Klamaskis and the guys behind TB Pennick and the guys behind Shaw Sons and the guys at Trademark and like all the guys that are like really, really top of the game. Like they're into it. Like they're all about it. And then like the dude in like Ohio, you know, he's like, oh, it's kind of cool. You know, so, which, I mean, no disrespect to Ohio, but you know, it's kind of like, imagine like you're a musician and you're starting out and it's growing, and Bob Dylan like shows up to your show and he's like, hey, it's a pretty good show. You know, that's how it feels.
Did he also invent the retarders, the different levels? Okay.
By no means. In fact, like it was TV Pennick, Shaw and Sons, like a lot of those Sullivan concrete textures that were kind of at the forefront of installing, I think Dayton Superior or GCP. I'm not quite sure how that worked, but they came up with the top cast like 01, 03, 05, 15, 25, etc. You know, this idea of retarders that don't show that, like back in the day, exposed aggregate was like all the biggest rocks, right? You put like freaking molasses on the concrete and then you would like wash it off to show the rocks. And then I think it was about 25 years ago that they had this idea of sand finishes where they would just show the sand. And the Firm Crete was just like a cheat code, like a way to fix those floors and a way to do those floors in a way that you couldn't go wrong. So a lot of the companies that he's been selling to, like now they're to the point where like they don't even try to do sand finishes on like vertical, especially with cast in place concrete. They'll just cast it ugly and then they'll put the Firm Crete on it and good to go.
Let's say it does crack or that you need some type of repair. What's the process for that?
That's a great question. So I'm actually doing some serious work trying to understand best practices for crack repair. There is an iCry manual, and I paid a bunch of money, and it's super boring to read. I'm going through it and I'm reading it, and then I'm talking to a lot of installers about like, you know, does this actually work? Like, what have you found that are challenges? There's a couple of big theme park organizations that I want to serve well by, you know, giving them my research and doing some good work in there. Found a lot of things. Some things are kind of counterintuitive. And, you know, when I say iCry, that's the International Concrete Repair Institute is what that stands for. And they've done some great work. The trick is that I think with anything, you know, in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice, there definitely is. And so you have to like talk to people that are actually doing it, and then talk to like end users and like pay attention and then try to aggregate all that information into something helpful. And so theme parks, I think, are one of the best things to partner with because they got acres of decorative concrete and they care about it doing well and they keep track of what's working and what's not.
Yeah. I mean, how cool would it be if I just went over and started talking to somebody who has some power to move some stuff and just go talk to the guys over at SeaWorld, because I'm in San Diego. I know next week Ray's crew is going to be down in San Diego doing some decorative finish, and he said he was going to bring me some samples, and I'm ready. I'm so excited about this stuff. I already told you at the show, I'm going to do my entire house. This place is going to be exposed aggregate central. It'll be great. Oh my pup.
That's my dog, Olive, my Great Dane. She just kind of barges the scene, like whatever's going on.
Prop to have. There is way worse problems to have. I'm getting some extra love.
Hey, that like God is so good, man. Like we have got some things going on with SeaWorld and a lot of the theme park things in Orlando, and really putting in work to try to serve them well. And hopefully it can come to fruition.
Oh, so you guys are working with Orlando SeaWorld?
There's a guy that's the LeBron James of decorative concrete in Florida, we'll say. And he's got a connection out there. We're planning on going out there in a few weeks to work with some of the other theme park things. And just really trying to make the most positive impact on the built environment that we can. Like I said, I mean, I've only been in the game for 18, 19 years, but I've been like a very aggressive student. Like I'm at the World of Concrete every other year, like just nerding it up. I'm not partying. I'm putting in miles. I'm trying to find, like, I'll set crazy goals. Like, all right, today I'm going to find 10 people like way smarter than me and try to learn from them. I mean, this is the real deal.
Did you find any other products that were even remotely close to what Ray has created with Firm Crete while you guys were out there?
No, not even ballpark. And I mean, like, I live in Granite Shoals, Texas, right? Like there are quarries everywhere out here. There are literally like, when y'all do structural slabs, you have footers and all these things. Dude, a lot of times out here, we have to cut our batter boards to put them on granite outcroppings. Like there will be like granite coming out of the ground. And so there's like some incredible sand out here. I remember back in 2007, I was in North Carolina for the Concrete Countertop Industry Conference. And like I'd been precasting 2-inch concrete countertops, like just wet casting them for like a year and a half at that point. And, all these guys are putting all these chemicals in the concrete, and they're like, well, we're cracking, we're doing this and that. And I'm just like, my stuff never cracks. And then come to find out, like I'm sitting on like the best sand on the planet. So I thought I had like these killer mixes. Like I have a GFRC mix, a sand mix, a pea gravel mix, all these things. And when I discovered Ray's stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool in California. Let me show you how we do it in Texas, ego. And so I tried using his polymer with like some of my mixes, and I wasn't even in the ballpark, like not even close. Again, like the beer analogy, it'd be kind of like, someone who tries Belgian style saisons, and then he's like, and he doesn't know anything. He's like a home brewer. And so he just like kind of YOLO, tries it. And it's just trash. I mean, like my stuff compared to Ray's stuff was like not even in the ballpark. And then like I saw him work, like how he'll like figure out like the Moz hardness of the different sands and then stack them and then tweak the recipe. And like him and his dad, like I'll tell you what, Jeff Bezos in an interview said there's like 1,000 different ways to be smart. And like that dude is the freaking sand gene. He's on another level.
One final question. Where do I go if I want to buy this Firm Crete?
Yeah, you got a lot of options. So concretedecorstore.com is a great partner. We're super stoked on what they're doing. If you want to talk about distributorships, just go to firmcrete.com and we'll talk to you. White Cap Construction Supplies carrying this in Southern California. In Texas, you got Superior Decorative Concrete Supply. There's I guess get at us at firmcrete.com and we'll try to make sure the most convenient, inexpensive thing locally is there for you.
Dude, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing some knowledge, man. That was really awesome. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is super fun, Rennie.
Yeah, likewise.